Robert, I'd like to open up the floor to two of my colleagues. Tyler Vernon is here with me on set for the hour, and as well as Dennis Neal from the Fox Business Network. And each of them have questions for you. Tyler, to you first.
Yeah, Robert, as Cheryl said, there's a lot going on. Specifically, the housing market has been propped up in a lot of different ways. We've seen the purchases of mortgage backs, which at some point that's going to be peeled back. I looked at a graph, I believe it was yours. It was an inflation adjusted as far as housing prices going back to the 1890s. And there were booms and busts, but along the way, there was a median here. And we see that prices in the late, over the last few years jumped up 84% and have come back. But we still have, by looking at that chart, another 25 or so percent if we were to go back to the mean. What is your thought there as far as with all this stimulus here into the mortgage market? Do you think that that's a possibility? And if so, what could that mean to consumers?
Yeah. It's very hard to forecast right now because we're in such an unusual circumstance. Not only seeing the bursting of the biggest bubble that we've ever seen, but also an institutionally unstable situation where the government is supporting most mortgages through Fannie, Freddie, and FHA. And this is something that many people want to see changed. So it kind of spooks the market. And this is, I don't know that we can do any quantitative statistical forecasts. We have to kind of use our political judgment and think about what might happen. But I am worried that depends on what comes out of Congress, but I'm worried that if we don't get encouragement, home prices could indeed fall back to the mean that we've seen over the last 100 years.
And that would be another 20-25%.
Right. Mr. Scheller, Dennis
and
Neal
it could
here.
Overshoot.
Speaking of pricing trends over the last 100 years or so, American stocks, or the stock market, I believe, has gone up 5 or 6% on average over 100 years. In a recent speech, though, you told an audience that you see for the next 10 years, stocks only growing 2 or 3%. Now, I didn't realize, first of all, I knew you were a really sharp housing guy. I didn't know you were an expert on stocks, but I think I heard a lot of people say that after the March '09 lows, and stocks are up 80 or 90% since then. So 2 to 3% on average a year for the next decade. Are you sure, sir, you don't want to raise that up a little bit there? Because we're talking about reverting to the mean and 100-year trends in pricings you were just mentioning in housing. Why not apply that to stocks?
Well, the stock market has done extraordinarily well over the last century compared with other investments, or 2 centuries if you look at Jeremy Siegel's data on this. And so you have to respect that the stock market has been the wonder investment. But you have to understand that there's no financial theory that supports that. It's called the equity premium puzzle. It's a puzzle that the stock market has done so well. So I don't think that we can extrapolate. I think you have to consider the possibility that it could keep going on like that. But my intuitive judgment that 2 to 3% is about right for it right now. It's not inspiring. It's not terrible.
Bet you're wrong.
Let me bring in one positive thing to all of you, Robert. I take this to you. One of the things you've been very bullish on, Robert, is farmland. Do you still have that same assessment of the nation's farmland right now?
Well, what I was talking about was a sense that we may be still in a farmland bubble. The housing price and commercial real estate prices have dropped dramatically. But they dropped in response to a construction response. When the prices got high, they built more houses and they built more commercial buildings. But they didn't make any more farmland. People used to confuse houses and commercial real estate with farmland. It's all real estate. But they're starting to realize there's a difference. They can't make more farmland. And so that might lead to the continuation of the bubble psychology. And it seems to be reaffirming itself. It's a guess. I don't know. It's psychology. Eventually, I think it'll burst again. So it's all risky trying to participate in these bubbles, but I suspect that we could well see a farmland bubble continuing for a while longer.
Well, I think our viewers are changing their investment strategies as we speak based on your words. Robert Shiller, Yale University professor, and of course, Case-Shiller Index co-author. Thank you, Robert. Great to talk to you on a day like this.
Cheryl, it's a pleasure.